And we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Allison, and this is Maintaining Frame Toward Individualistic Reproduction. And the men will get feminist sex bots, where we're going to be continuing to look at this paper from Cambridge University Press. I thought I would just share you guys the visual for that. So you see that we are looking at an actual paper. But since there's no images here, I'm just putting this up as like a placeholding image. Allison, do you want to do the things? And
I shall. Okay, so just before I do the things, the summary of this paper is that the left has discovered that the burb rate, not enough burbs, guys, go get more burbs. The
the
birth
burp
rate,
rates.
the burb rates are going down. And this might be catastrophic because they might run out of dead people who vote. No, this is a problem. And of course, their solution is more communism. Because why not?
Yes.
You know, that's basically it. So basically, their solution is that we should pay women to be single mothers, even though this is actually not proven to increase the birth rate, and in fact is decreasing the birth rate. The more single women we have, the fewer babies we have. So that's it's not only on the surface is this something that won't fix the problem. It'll only make bureaucrats richer. It's something that will make bureaucrats richer at the expense of everyone else. So we don't want to do that. And then the solution, they say, since this will inevitably marginalize men further from their families, because women want men who contribute, and if you raise the bar, if the government takes from men to give to women, then you've raised the bar of minimum contribution that men can give to their families in order to be eligible for the women who want families. Okay, let me see if I can try that again in English. When the government gives women money, they raise how much money they want from a man to be in a relationship with him.
Yes.
Okay? That does not change. Now, maybe we could change it. Maybe we could shift that. That might be something to look into. However, nobody is doing that because that requires the taboo thing, which is blaming women. Nobody can do that. Nobody can situate responsibility for women. So that's off the table. So their proposal is to increase the amount of money government gives women from men's tax dollars, thus increasing the rate of family, like the destruction of family formation, which won't increase the birth rate, of course. And but they have a sop for men. Artificial wombs and sex bots, guys, and they totally won't program those sex bots to be feminists. And by totally won't, I mean totally will. Okay. I remember getting into it. Oh, you know what? I'll do the things first. So if any
Yeah.
time throughout this conversation you would like to send us your cosmic wisdoms, please do so at feedthebadger.com/justthetip. That is the best way for you to send your cosmic wisdom because it is not interfered with by YouTube's comment enhancement system, and we get the full benefit of whatever funds you send. And maybe at some point I can buy the ability to speak properly. So anyway, feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and a comment with that tip. Feedthebadger.com/support to support the show when that is available, which it is not yet. And badgernation.online to join us in our community. And you can read more of my thoughts. Periodically, I do a supplement on each show that is some additional analysis based on my various frameworks that I've developed. And that some people find that edifying, interesting additional reading. And you can access that at badgernation.online. It'll take you to our Discord, so don't get alarmed if you end up in Discord. And yeah. Thank you for joining, and let's get into it. Unless you have
Okay.
any
So
initial
where did
thoughts
we?
about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Did you have any initial thoughts? I don't even recall. I mean, I think we're because this is not really a study. Like I don't recall this having much of a methodology. It was just sort of like a essay.
Oh yeah,
An
no, they're just basically making a proposal to
Yeah, it's a
spend more
proposal.
money. I
Yeah.
think Well, let me see.
Yeah, I mean, I could look at it right now. I can give you a rough estimate where I think we stopped based on what I
Yeah.
think we dealt with, but it'd probably be better for you to take a look. I mean, in the meantime, I can lay out my thesis. No, not
Oh,
thesis,
there's
hypothesis.
things I can jump to. So I
Yeah.
think okay, let's get to the 3 sexual revolutions that freed women. How about that as a start?
Oh, right. We were covering that last time, and I was explaining how all of this is balderdash.
Yeah.
Did we not get through the whole thing? Need to go through it again?
I don't know if we
Sure.
finished it. After that comes men's reduced utility to women. So we could also look at that.
Men's
Um,
reduced utility to women, guys.
yeah, men's reduced utility to women. Yes.
Well, what they mean is that the government takes from men's tax dollars and gives it to women. And also, our society has constructed this non-meritocracy escalator for women that starts from kindergarten
Hmm?
all the way up to getting a job. All right, that's what they mean. We're less reliant because, again, the bureaucracy has constructed it so that it takes stuff from men and gives it to women. It's not that women are less reliant, it's that bureaucrats have gone into the process and obfuscated,
Obfuscated. Yeah.
obfuscated, okay, that there's
Obfuscated.
yeah, you see that
Obfuscated.
there's an obfuscated,
That's okay.
see that
That's okay. It's fine. It's fine.
there's a stop there that I will never comprehend. I think it's like it's not a glottal stop. It's some kind of stop. Obfuscated.
Obfuscated.
Obfuscated. All right. So
Yeah.
they've obfuscated where the money and the support is coming from. So now women think it comes from government. But as you know, if you've watched this channel for any length of time, we know where it comes from. It comes from men. So no, women are not unreliant on men. Communism, and I'm an anarcho-capitalist, so everything's communism to me. My channel is probably communism if I think about it too hard. So communism has constructed this obfuscation of where this is coming from. Right? There's no imaginary third group of people that's producing the stuff that women consume. Okay, there's 2 groups plus a bunch of subgroups that are not particularly relevant when it comes to tax codes, and the one group is men, and that group is still where women are being supported from. Okay, shall we continue?
Yes. So am I going to read? I'll read men's reduced utility to women then. Okay. While it might be uncomfortable, it's crucial to acknowledge that female emancipation required a return to the marginalization of the least sought after men. Male marginalization here denotes the exclusion of men from pair bonding and reproduction. Since the first sexual revolution around 1200 had imposed lifelong monogamy, Westerners had lived in societies with exceptionally strong pair bonding egalitarianism. According to Heinrich 2020, a high proportion of men could secure a mate, which had not been common for our species. We have around twice as
Why do
many
they put it that
female.
way?
What?
Why do they put it that way? Because the other way is also just as viable. Just as many women could secure a mate, a long-term mate.
Yeah.
Right?
Isn't that funny?
It's
I know
like,
it is weird that they're framing
yeah.
it that way.
Yeah, they're just see, yeah, and I say that because I went on a long little rabbit hole researching this paper, and I looked at what was going on in marriage and like actually what I looked at is all of the conversation around women's independence. And so I was looking at, at the time, Middle Ages, professions were dominated by guilds. So I ended up looking at the situation for women in guilds. And what I found was really interesting because there was the possibility of women having apprenticeships and journeymanships, but they generally didn't if they had marriage prospects. And that wasn't like a thing like, oh, yeah, well, we'll only do this for you. No, it was literally they would prefer to have marriage prospects because it was better to marry a man who had already gone through the process of becoming an apprentice and a journeyman and then had gained skills in order to operate, and marry him and work with him to establish a business so that she would be doing like the customer facing side, then it would to go through all of that herself. That was the woman, apparently, or at least entirely probably, that was the woman's preferred option. Okay, then there was something else interesting that happened. There's a bunch of career stuff that occurred in like the 1500s, and the guilds started to restrict who could operate under their license. And so they started to restrict the ability of widows to operate under their license, or women to be granted masterships. And what's interesting is that the pattern of resistance to this, and this was because there wasn't enough to go around, right? For various economic reasons, there wasn't enough work to go around, so they had to start restricting it, how many people could be operating in this professional capacity. And what was interesting, this is specifically tailoring, because that's for whatever reason, and tailoring was huge, and also there's a lot of research on that particular. What was interesting is that there was a pattern in how the women fought the restrictions. They did not fight the restrictions of operating directly. So, for example, widows taking over her husband's shop and then operating it herself. They didn't fight the guild's restrictions on that. They fought the guild's restrictions on whether or not a woman could bequeath a master, like she would be working with her husband dies, he was a master in the trade, and she would be able to bequeath, of course, the shop and the mastership to the next man she married. That the women, everybody fought back on. They wanted to keep the ability for women to choose the journeymen that became masters. And it's just really interesting because they didn't fight to keep their own careers. They fought for the right to have that in their trousseau, which, if you don't know what that means, it means it's sort of like a dowry so that they could attract a man to marry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really interesting because if you think about it, that's really like a big part of women's concern throughout history. Like, again, they weren't fighting to keep their careers. They were fighting to keep their dowries, keep themselves attractive in marriage prospects. And throughout history, that has been the central thing that women have been concerned about. I want to make sure I have a dowry. I want to be able to make sure I can marry well. I want to make sure my girls can marry well. And for some reason, this paper, I don't know, in the last couple generations, women have been liberated from marriage, which is the thing that they were always fighting for, to be eligible for, to be desirable for throughout most of human history. And yet suddenly they've been convinced that they don't want it. And the funny thing is that, again, this is not new. Women have always had dowries. They've always had resources. Even if they were working class, they had jobs. So why is it suddenly these women now don't want to get married and think that it's liberation not to be married? And then we come back to the paper telling us that, of course, it was always men who wanted to be married. But just ignore all that, those fights over dowry, over making sure that the women in the Tailors Guild could confer mastership that becomes part of their trousseau so that they could be marriageable. Forget all of that throughout all of human history. That didn't happen. No, it was always men. Men were the only ones who ever wanted to get married. Don't you know, guys?
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is a long aside, so let's keep going.
Okay, back to this. A high well, actually, I got some super chats or super chow. Richard Bier gave us $5 super chow. Thank you, Richard. And says, so the envisioned future is that there will be about a dozen accessible men designated as seed keepers and a commune of women playing volleyball, and the required booths go into in order to release a fart. Of course, there will also be government-issued lily of the valley for all of the women. Okay. Thank you for that. I wonder if these people, like, they know that these are things that can't actually be achieved, but they still talk about it. I don't know. But
yes,
back to this. A high proportion of... What?
If you want to know the reference, he's referring No Man's Country, which is a
No,
Russian
I know, I know,
comedy
I
sci-fi
know how Richard's mind works.
about a
I know.
well, but the people who are listening, but people who have been tuning in, they may not know that there is such a thing as the Russian comedy sci-fi named No Man's Zone that basically lampoons a feminist utopia. And it
Yeah.
was actually quite funny and sort of wholesome in its way. So there you go. Okay.
All right. A high proportion of men could secure a mate, which had not been common in our species. We have around twice as many female as male ancestors, as most men did not prevail in their
No,
intersexual competition over women and were thus deprived of becoming our ancestors. Okay, what were you
no,
going
I've
to say?
looked into that. No, that's not what. Okay,
You know, it's kind of
they are.
what you know. What's kind of funny about this? They're basically saying that like most men are going to be considered unfit to reproduce because monogamy is this thing that was used so that like low status men could like have babies. I mean, is that what I'm seeing? Like kind of a eugenicist argument? Is that what
Yeah,
I'm seeing, or am I wrong?
well, that's a completely different angle. Yeah, it's a Genesis argument.
A
They're
eugenicist
basically.
argument. Yeah.
Yep.
Like only like they're basically this is bad because it has privileged men that should be unfit. That's what it's
Mm-hmm.
saying, right? Okay. All right.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
want to come back to that later because there is someone who agrees with these people and it's coming from somewhere that they might not expect, but
Mm.
we'll get to that later.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, no,
Can
go
I
ahead.
just? Yeah, like I want to get into the genetic studies. First of all, they're very provisional. Like there's not settled science on this. Second of all, what they're talking about is two pinch points in human genetic diversity. One at about 100,000 years ago, and the other at about 10,000 years ago. And we don't know why that happened. Now, I think that a sickness might have been ruled out, but I'm not sure. Or there was some kind of cultural change that happened. Not sure. Don't know. But there is basically a big genetic pinch point at those two periods of time. And for whatever reason, there are a lot of dead men, not so many dead women. Now, what ended up happening immediately after is we resumed basically one-to-one uh, monogamous pair bonding for the most part that characterizes our species. And so the idea that it's however many men to however many women who reproduced, it's not really borne out. And the other thing that I notice about the science is, okay, so the way that they measure this stuff is, or at least part of the information regarding this assertion, is last common ancestor. Okay. So if your last common ancestor, female ancestor, is further in the past than your last male common ancestor, they say there's more genetic diversity on your female line than your male line. And and then they would say, well, that means there's more, you have more female ancestors than male ancestors. But the problem is that I've also caught them saying, well, if your last male ancestor is further back than your last female ancestor, that also means you have more female ancestors than male ancestors. And I'm like, you can't have it both ways. That is an unfalsifiable statement. It's essentially a conclusion groping for its own evidence, right? So you can't say, well, this evidence and the exact opposite of this evidence all lands on the same conclusion. So there's some issues with that particular science. Now I could get more into it, but it just gets more and more freaking technical, so I won't. Just suffice to say that this may not be the case. And furthermore, if it is the case, it's the result of severe genetic bottlenecks that are not something that we evolved to have. It's just, they were just things that they were external to us in the past, right? And then immediately after, we reasserted our preferred mating strategy, which is monogamous. And there is substantial evidence that that is what we are. Okay, so these people are wrong, and the biggest evidence that they're wrong is that, again, married women have more children than single women, substantially more. And if we had most women married, we wouldn't have a birth rate crisis, or it would be substantially better than it is now. The problem is we have too many single women, and making more single women doesn't solve the problem of having too many single women. Right? So there you go.
Especially if you're paying them to be single.
And if we were not monogamous breeders, this would not be a problem. These women would be having children. Right? If we were promiscuous breeders like chimps, we would not be having a birth rate crisis right now. Right? If we were polygamous like, I don't know, gorillas, we wouldn't be having a birth rate crisis right now.
Yeah.
Like it wouldn't be happening. The reason why we're having a birth rate crisis is because we're not having a birth rate crisis. We're having a pair bond formation crisis. And birth rates are downstream of that. Like, people are not getting in relationships. Men and women are not forming relationships at sufficient volume to create a birth rate that our culture sustains itself with. It's as simple as that. And making the problem worse is not going to make the problem better. It sounds really stupid when I say it like that, doesn't it? Huh. Okay, continue.
Maybe it is stupid. Reverting to such stark mating inequality may feel inappropriate to contemporary sensibilities. However, in the pop cultural discourse surrounding the mating crisis, some have expressed strong intuitions for why female emancipation has cost some men dearly. A widely circulated meme distilled this view memorably. The real reason we have a male loneliness epidemic is because marriage was DEI for men. Whoa. Is that so? So the more of this kind of interesting rhetoric. It's literally sources the fucking TikTok video. That's their source for this. Okay, I'm just gonna like ignore that unless you want to see that TikTok video.
I can no, that's okay. We don't need
no. It's just some
toe
manifestel type lady
into the waters of
saying
hell.
saying that marriage is DEI for men. That DEI thing really stung, didn't it? They never let that go. Now they're doing that thing. No, we're not the DEI. You are the DEI guy. You're the ones trying to get married and have children. And you realize you're talking about your father and your grandfather. Yeah. No, of course you don't. You don't think about that. Anyway.
No. The very system that's why they're here. And I'm guessing we're going to be taking a long time to get through this, but it's a very substantial paper, I think, and it's good to address it.
Yeah.
But okay. So emancipation from marriage is what feminism did for women. Now, how will I focus on this? What I've noticed is that while feminism says it has emancipated women from the pair bond, what it seems to have freed, quote unquote, women into is being fuck toys for sociopaths, or at least men who are completely indifferent to them in terms of relationships. And funnily enough, it's constructed the situation where women are being like they're basically in the rotation of these men, these situationships, right? And they are the ones who look at this situation and say, well, I have to manage my emotions, like around him not texting and not showing up and not caring about me in the slightest, unless I make myself a complete sexual convenience to him. And if I don't, then he's just going to drop me from his rotation. But what's really happening here, guys, is she's learning to be an empowered, independent woman who doesn't rely on a man emotionally. So feminism has framed it in such a way that women do the emotional labor of being a sexual convenience for a guy who's never going to commit to them, and taking it upon themselves that in order to be strong and independent, they have to, exist on his terms. And I'm like looking at this situation. How much? Okay, so they will bend over backwards not to be an emotional imposition or retain the emotional attitude to accept being some dude's sexual convenience. Like that's what these women will do. They'll bend themselves into pretzels, right? So that they can tolerate being Chad's Thursday 3:30 to 4:15 p.m., right?
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's being empowered. But some woman in Australia makes a sandwich for her construction worker husband, and that's a pick me. Like she's doing something for him in an obviously reciprocal relationship, right? She's getting something back from that, his companionship, him paying the bills, whatever else, right? Him showing up every day. And she's just making a sandwich for a man who shows up every day and is building a life for her, and that's being a pick me. But no, making sure that you turn yourself into a sexual convenience for a psychopath, a sociopath, that's empowerment. Do you notice that? Like
Mm-hmm.
the distinction there? You make a sandwich for a man in a reciprocal relationship, that's being taken advantage of. You turn yourself into a sexual convenience for a sociopath, that's being an empowered, independent woman. And I'm not judging the guy. Like, not all of them are sociopaths. Many of them just figured out that, investment is a fool's game in this dating market for men. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that's quite the dichotomy, feminists. You get women to eat their desire for a man who shows up, to eat their desire for a reciprocal relationship, to eat their desire for a man who's emotionally available, right? Who doesn't treat them like a convenience to be thrown out. You make women eat all of that to turn them into sexual toys for your extractive sociopaths that you freaking love. You feminists just fucking love those men. And then you point fingers and mock women who actually are reciprocal in a reciprocal relationship. I love the zany chutzpah of all that.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
All right. So I got another super chow and a super chat. So I'm going to read that really quick. Richard Bier gave us 5 and said, remember that the greatest period of female economic empowerment was during the Black Plague, as the plague opened up so many economic opportunities for women by getting the men, the me, who were keeping women disempowered out of the way, the men of their advancement. No, I know. It's just
Yeah, that's bullshit. That
yeah.
is
Well, he's joking. He's saying that a lot of men died, therefore women could find work.
yeah, except
Because
that
the Black
also a lot of
Plague.
women died. And that's not
Yes.
really what happened. In fact, the legal position for women changed quite a bit. I'm not going to say it became worse, because generally these kind of shifts coincide with more social expectations on men to protect and provide. So, like, it's complicated. It's much more complicated than that simplistic story would suggest. And no, women didn't benefit from the Black Plague. But of course, I would not put it past a feminist to assert such a thing.
Yeah.
Oh man, ladies, you're being taken advantage of if you make your sandwich for a husband who shows up for you every day. If you spread your legs for a man who only tolerate you for half an hour while he's fucking you, that's empowerment. God damn. All right, let's keep going.
All right, I got another super chat from Senior Sticks for $5, who says the birth rate crisis is global, as in no investment of the whole or the roots that allow for such comforts. Example, all the young people leaving. Yeah, it's spreading everywhere, if that's what you're getting at. Okay, so in this framing, marriage between the first and third sexual revolutions functioned as a kind of de facto affirmative action program for low value men. After the church's insistence on monogamy, it was no longer a legally sanctioned option for women to share the highest value men in polygynous relationships. This radical intervention could be seen as DEI for men, or more precisely, for the low value men who previously would have been outcompeted by men who could attract and afford multiple mates.
How could
But
they afford them?
Yeah,
All right.
right.
Okay, so first of all, accumulating wealth, especially accumulating wealth through generations. This is the other thing. They're coming right up against another feminist sibboleth, which is that wealth, the accumulation of wealth itself created patriarchal marriage. So which is it? Did it create polygamy or did it create patriarchal marriage? Right? So they can never get their story straight. But here's
No.
the issue. Throughout most of human evolution, there was no accumulation of wealth. Right? So if a woman was attracted to a man who didn't actually commit, she wasn't reproductively successful. She was dead. And if she was part of a family of sisters that all did it, that family line died. Because here's the thing, humans don't survive to adulthood without involved fathers in the wild. I mean, maybe one or two if they have an extended family, but you can't rely on that. Right? You can't rely on that through most of human history when our biggest groups were like 25 people. Okay, so it doesn't even make sense on its face. And this is what I really want to drill into people's heads. Throughout most of our evolutionary history, there was no point at which a woman could have a successful reproductive strategy without an involved male partner. She was just dead, and offspring were dead. Right? That's actually, you see a little bit of an echo of that in like the Teutons, I think it was, and their attitude towards women. And essentially, if they were migratory barbarians, I'll call them barbarians, right? So they would move from place to place and they'd follow the herds. And if a man died in battle, his woman had 3 months to find another man, or they basically bashed her brain in with a rock and her children's because she was a liability, right? And that was the social situation for women through, at least in like the northern steppes and like a lot of the, it wasn't a situation where everyone was settled and they could afford a bunch of mouths to feed and a woman who wasn't partnered. Okay, so keep that in your mind, right? When women in the past had sex with men who did not commit, they were consigning their own death warrant. They were signing it. Either that or they were just abandoning the kid in the field to die so that they could survive. That is not a reproductive strategy. What we're seeing today, is abnormal. And we may be having been seen abnormal behavior since like 100,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. It may be that civilization inculcates in us some strange kind of behaviors. Like it does that with dogs versus wolves, that dogs don't pair bond, wolves do, right? So that could be part of it. But the evolved behaviors, it's not a successful strategy for a woman to not have an involved partner. That just results in dead babies, right? And it's not a successful strategy in a situation where nobody's acquiring any wealth to sort of average it out. Like you can have multiple wives if you own a giant grain bin, but you're not going to own a giant grain bin until after the Neolithic, right? So you can't, like, it's just not going to work when you're like a roving band. It's just not going to work. And that is how we evolved. And honestly, and I keep fighting against this because there's a whole bunch of really bad information. Human beings are some of the most obligate pair bonders. That means pair bonding isn't just like it's just like, maybe if I'm feeling like it thing for us. It is obligate. It is required. We are some of the most obligate pair bonding animals on the planet. So we're not just like socially pair bonded, which is undeniable. We're also genetically, and in many cases sexually, monogamous too. And what that means, and one of the studies that indicates that is rates of half siblings. Now it varies, and you guys are going to find this hilarious. For example, in Northern Europe, the rate of half siblings is like 3%. Of course, that's changed a bit lately, but what that means is most brothers and sisters in Northern Europe are from the same pair. Now, in Africa, that goes up to like 40%. In Asia, it's about 9%. I'll leave the comparative civilization comparative for the viewer, but that suggests fairly strongly that we are monogamous, because this is something that you don't see in other animals, right? Even most social, most pair bond mammals, they don't just have a high rate of genetically like half sisters or half brothers, half sisters among the offspring. The offspring themselves are often like 70% of them aren't the social fathers genetically. That's not true for humans. Like if you just test randomly, not just test based on somebody who has a concern about paternity, you're looking at like 97%. So around the world, for the most part, men's children are their children. Like the children of the social father is also the genetic father for humans. That is unprecedented among most pair bonding animals. Most pair bonding animals average, if they're like birds, they average maybe 70%. And if they're mammals, they can go down to 30% genetically the father. Like we are really unique in this. And this is something that I see constantly people misrepresenting, and it's usually probably traced to like that Sex at Dawn book, which is absolute balderdash. But anyway, so it's like this again, more misrepresentation here. Anyway, shall we continue? I have a lot of like studies that.
No, it's okay. It's okay. All right. So let me see. No more super chats or anything right now. So, but still, such lowest value men contributed resources that could be invaluable for his wife and offspring, making it adaptive to marry them. In our ancestors' environment, having a partner could be life-saving for a woman and her offspring if he provided even substandard levels of resources and some protection against predators, rival groups, and hostile males. Consequently, the romantic emotions women evolved for men needed only be strong enough to facilitate sufficient pair bonding and reproduction in environments that were far poorer and more dangerous than our own. What romantic emotions are we talking about? Women evolved for men? Oh, so wait. Women evolved romantic emotions for men?
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it says? Okay.
Yes, but only they were only strong enough in environments of depredation. So men had to provide something more in order to attract a woman, and that would be resources, but not that much in like a poor. And I'm curious why they don't make the obvious statement here. They're assuming that pair bonding is imposed on women, and they're describing the ancestral conditions that we evolved in. Like that pair bonding is imposed socially on women, and they're describing the ancestral situation that we evolved in to explain why women have romantic feelings for men. What, I feel like we're reading the hoof prints of a bunch of lizards.
I
Like,
don't think lizards have hooves, but I
okay,
think I know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah, like the
Claw prints.
claw
Yeah.
marks of a bunch of lizards. Oh, well, the romantic feelings of the female towards the male. Oh, good Lord. Well, and again, I'll throw my own conjecture into the heap. I think that they're right, but wrong at the same time. I think what's happened is that the excessive comfort of our societies has prevented women from, as I say, always the V1A cross activation that would tend to make them gain that kind of desire for a specific partner and a desire for their own personal territory, which for gregarious pair bonders, our personal territory generally is our pair bond. And I can get into that a bit more, but maybe later. All right, let's keep moving.
How this aspect of male long-term utility has changed after the third sexual revolution, we argue, explains much of why women, to an increasing extent, exclude the least sought-after men. They have no crucial resources to offer. In addition to women now being able to provide for themselves and have perfectly fine lives as romantically single, many nations support them with generous financial transfers. Regarding modern Scandinavia, Bus 68, or I'm sorry, Bus 2003 concluded that, quote, taxpayers effectively provide what husbands formerly provided, freeing women from their economic dependence on men. So you agree that you've basically fucked everybody with this. This is what you're saying. Because you've already said women are earning their own money and they're getting money from the government, and but you're just assuming that men have no crucial resources to offer, which is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean
It's ridiculous
they're
because
just saying it. Like they're just saying it.
it's ridiculous because they've just conceded that men have crucial resources. The only difference is what I said. They're being distributed to women via a bureaucratic extraction class,
Yes.
right? And they're not just being distributed to women from men, they're also being distributed to women, to single women, single, I guess, unmarried mothers, from women with the discipline to actually have children in a relationship. So those women are losing money to subsidize the irresponsible. Just putting it out there, right? So there's an implicit assumption that they're making here, and what they're revealing is that women still rely on men. It's just that whatever they rely on men for, the government is extracting out of men and delivering it to them. That sounds really unjust, fundamentally unjust, right? To
Yeah.
extract from one group to deliver it unanimously to the other group seems really unjust for no other reason than their bio category. I mean, I don't even have to go into how dysfunctional this is and how it's destroying the birth rate. The fact that you're extracting from one category of person based on the color of, the contents of their pants, and giving it to another group of people based on the content of their pants is, it seems a little unjust. I thought we did something about that like 200 years ago, or was it 150 years ago? Huh? I thought we did something about that. I guess we're just doing that again. Just doing that again. Gonna have another
Yep.
round of that. All right, let's keep going.
All right. The above factors suppress pair bonding. The assumption inherent in the concept of assortative mating is that women with a mate value in a certain percentile consider a suitable match a man in the same percentile. If they do, a zipper can be used as a metaphor for how individuals with similar value pair bond, providing communities with enough couples to reproduce their numbers. There is, however, little reason to assume that the median man and woman must have equal mate value unless their mating regime makes monogamous marriage near obligatory. I like how they call marriage, like the encouragement of marriage is coming from a regime. They like that word regime. It usually means evil overlord of some kind. Those evil overlords, recommending marriage and family. How could they? Those bastards. With men, no less, which is the worst part. With regards to their pair bonding, the relative value of the sexes is primarily informed by the importance of biparental care in a given environment, the sex ratio, and prevailing mating norms. You know what else is really funny about this is they're basically assuming that whatever women's preferences are must be like a correct, like that's when a woman says that's the man I want, she's looks matched to that guy regardless. They're like matched. It's even. It's men that are the problem. They're the ones that need DEI. You know,
Well,
they're the ones that not the women. Whatever women want, they clearly deserve it. And also they said earlier something about how they're gonna basically, like they're going to exclude the least sought after men. Well, guess what? What's already going to happen is that if you limit the pool of men, the women are just going to pick the top percent of those men that you have found acceptable, because that's how women work, and you haven't like wrestled with that yet. You know, they're just
Yeah.
going to, if you say these are the 500 men we have deemed the highest quality men, and these billions of other men are just going to like work the mines to provide the raw materials so that you ladies can live your in the lap of luxury and convenience. And the women are just going to be like, well, I don't like 498 of those guys. I just kind of like these two. And all the women are going to want those guys.
Yeah,
Like
because it's always a
these
moving
people have
target.
apocalyptic ideas about the way we should live.
Yeah, I mean it's always a relative target. It's always the men that are going to make your girlfriends jealous.
Yep.
So that's never a standard mean. It's just always a top. So even if all the undesirable men, just the desirability fairy waved her magic wand and made them all minimally desirable, then the lower bar would just raise, so that again 95% of men are not within the interest of women. But I just want to point out that they're saying that pair bonding is unnecessary, but the problem is that it is. Humans aren't reproducing outside of pair bonds. They just aren't. There seems to be a small number of women who make it a business to have children, and then there's also a few women who just, I guess, accidental themselves into it. But for the most part, those two groups of people are declining very fast. So it's going to be that single women simply just don't have children. It doesn't matter how much money you give them. They're just not going to have children. It's just not. So this whole idea that when men need a pair bond to reproduce, and it's only men that need it, right? It's only the low status men that need enforced monogamy to reproduce. Well, unfortunately, that's true about women too. And the
Yeah.
other thing that's true is if women want a relationship with a man who shows up, this regime is not going to get them that either. Right? So the thing is that they're missing is that this is reciprocal. When they say that most men aren't going to marry, they mean most women aren't going to marry either. Because I hate to say it, but I don't think women are going to share a man with 20 other women, on 20 other women. And they may share that man, but they sure as hell aren't going to have many children. And harems did not produce a hell of a lot of children. People don't realize that. The societies that with more strict monogamy produce a heck of a lot more children than any other society. Because humans are obligate pair bonders. We don't breed outside of a pair bond. And when we do, it's usually a mistake. It's usually a massive mistake. So let's keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. All right, I got another Rumble rant from NovaFan21 who says, does the article acknowledge the effect men leaving the dating market and living minimalist lifestyles that lower the taxes they owe will reduce the women's safety net? Might explain third world men. No, of course they're not going to. I mean, I don't know, but I'll tell you right now, I doubt it, because they're not even asking questions about men's side of this. Like, men have not been consulted on this at all. It's just a bunch of these, I don't know, thought leaders, I guess. I mean, this is coming from Cambridge.org, so not like some fringe crazy website. Okay, but anyway, if our hypothesis is correct in that our current environment motivates women to assign lower value to certain groups of men, we should see fewer assortative matches and declining pair bonding rates. We would expect a marginalization of men with lower long-term mate value and a greater female intrasexual competition for the high-value men. A line of studies support the hypothesis that this change is occurring. For instance, Harper et al. Found that from 2002 to 2011 through 13, the top 5% of American men increased their number of sex partners by 32%, while a similar reduction in sex partners occurred across men in the lower percentiles. You mean like all the rest? Norwegian men in the top 5% of estimated earnings capacity have over a 90% probability of being partnered by age 40, while men in the bottom 5% have under a 40% probability. Danish men experience similar marginalization, as 45% of low-skilled men live alone. All right, should I keep going? I will.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure
Next.
out where the heck you are.
Oh, I'm on. Now I've just gotten to the dating apps exacerbate women's discrimination of men. So
Hmm.
some of this stuff is explaining reality, but it's funny because I wouldn't be surprised if the people who wrote this paper hold the very ideas that are creating the conditions that they are now looking at as though it's completely organic. Wow, look at all these funny little side effects of all this sexual liberation for women, of all of these revolutions. Look at these findings. Fascinating. Everything's going to hell. Boy, it's a good thing we got out from underneath that oppressive, marriage thing that's like keeping people chained, women specifically chained to like men that they clearly can do better than. So, anyway, dating apps exacerbate women's discrimination of men. The fact that behavior on dating apps is so quantifiable perhaps contributes to why so many blame this new technology for parts of our mating dysfunction. Research reveals how strongly women discriminate between men in the distribution of mating outcomes, a stratification reflected also in dating app behavior. Yet we caution against viewing this new technology as the underlying cause of reduced pair bonding, a process that started decades before Tinder was launched in 2012. Digital app use further complicates assortative mating, yet a return to our analog past would probably not solve the fertility crisis. To support this argument, we must investigate how dating app dynamics mostly reflect, although also exacerbate, the deeper issue of many men's reduced utility as long-term partners. Nope, nothing from Allison? You don't want to say anything else?
I'm
just listening.
The deeper issue of many men's reduced utility as long-term partners. Stop taking money from them, right, and giving it to women.
Yeah.
Like, what is the ethical argument to taking money from one bio group to give it to another? There is none. There's absolutely none. If you want to solve this crisis, you've got to deal with men's issues. That's it. Like, and you've got to get rid of feminism, because feminism, like, there's this thing that I just looked at again, which I'm still astounded by. I'm gonna read it out again because I think you remember this. These dynamics suggest that trying to increase pair bonding rates is the obvious way forward for nations hoping to avoid a demographic collapse. Unfortunately, experts are unsure also of the psychological causes behind reduced pair bonding. My God, Brian, what could possibly have reduced pair bonding? Surely it isn't an ideology that explicitly said it was going to destroy marriage, because it says that marriage is the site of oppression. Not just marriage, heterosexuality is the site of oppression of women. Surely that might, maybe we can't, we just don't know what destroyed marriage. There's no possible way of figuring it out, Brian. No candidates for what could possibly have destroyed the process of pair bonding between men and women. None whatsoever.
No idea.
No idea, guys. Complete mystery. Okay, let's keep going.
I guess we're just gonna have to keep on moving forward and not actually ask any questions about that whatsoever. So
yeah, and keep doing the same thing, guys.
Yeah, let's just keep moving.
Let's
see
just
where this goes.
Keep throwing gasoline on the fire. Surely it will work. Get another bucket. Surely this next bucket of gasoline will put the fire out. Ugh. Okay.
Yep. Okay. While the pill empowered women to pursue the most attractive men with less risk of pregnancy, that's a strange leap right there.
Yeah, but
how
also,
did that?
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm actually
Well,
curious.
I'm just like, the only thing the pill did was, I'm sorry, I don't know how else to put it. It allowed them to be sluts without consequences. That's what it did. It allowed them to basically like fuck whoever they wanted to without worrying about getting pregnant. And they're saying, no, this allows them to pursue the most attractive men with less risk of pregnancy. No, that's not what it's for. The pill doesn't let women pursue attractive men. The pill lets women have sex without getting pregnant while fucking with
Mhm.
their hormones, by the way. No, that's just the reality of what the pill is, though. Like, why are you
Yeah,
telling me it's doing something that it doesn't do? It does not
yeah.
allow women to pursue attractive men. You can pursue attractive men with or without the pill. So that has
Hmm.
nothing to do with this. So why are you framing it this way? And this is what I'm saying.
But
This is where the
also,
rhetoric comes in. They're playing these rhetorical games of saying, well, you see, the pill liberated women, so we couldn't possibly consider taking that away, which of course they're
well,
really a big, proponents of. Well, even though no one's saying we got to take it away,
no, that's
they're
not what I was
just,
getting at. That's not okay. I just want to point out that again, they're essentially saying that whatever they're doing, this liberation, is not going to result in. We've liberated women. That's caused the birth rate to crater. So let's keep doing that, but also liberate them more to solve the birth rate crisis. See, like they just said that the pill, of course, allowed women not to have children. Well, that's exactly what it did. But now they're saying, well,
yeah,
let's continue with that so that something question mark question mark question mark, and then the birth rate crisis will be solved. Like
yes,
that's ridiculous. Okay, let's just keep doing, and that's all they're doing is they're saying, well, this, I don't know how pair bonding imploded. Surely it wasn't the very strident women who all said that it was the source of oppression of women. Oh,
yep,
but let's just keep doing this thing. And honestly, why don't we just like chill on taking away the birth control pill? Like I'm don't have a dog in that fight in particular, and chill on this whole getting rid of women's rights. Why don't we just start with what they say is women's rights anyway? I'm pretty sure women always worked, and they always had material possessions, and they always had standing in their communities. So whatever they think that feminists emancipated women from, I just want to point out that you probably shouldn't trust feminists even in terms of what they say they did. But let's just set all of that aside. Why don't we just stop telling women that men don't pull their weight in relationships, that men are a danger to be abusive, sexually or otherwise, in relationships? So first of all, those men are the least dangerous, but also women are equally dangerous. So right, maybe don't single men out for unique condemnation as being so wretched in relationships and so dangerous and so exploitative, and stop saying that heterosexuality is the site of women's oppression, and stop saying that um, marriage is horrible for women. Like, could we stop that? Like, why don't we just do that? Why don't we just do a moratorium on saying how horrible men are for like a year? Like, just stop doing it. Like, we're constantly reading articles like that. It's like just article after article, which is just basically men are horrible, right? Like, there's no excuse for it. They just find some new way to frame men as being horrible. Shush, dog. I'm on a roll. And why don't we stop that for a year and then see if maybe that helps the pair bonding? Huh? What do you think, Brian? Do you think does it
I
seem
mean,
ridiculous?
I think that's a good step one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we could start there and then see where it goes. Like, I guess what the reason why I decided to drill down on this is because there were several choices that we made as a society, going back to before we were born, that got us to this point. And it seems like every choice up until now, this fork in the road that this piece is talking about, well, none of that can be questioned. So we're just going to go from here. And I'm saying, well, maybe there were some things that we decided that were a good idea, which may not be a good idea. One of them being shitting on men and blaming them for everything. But they're just basically like, well, this is where we are now, and acting like it just it's like, well, you can't put the genie in the bottle there, so we're just going to extract resources from men until they die and expect them to just be okay with that. So, and give those resources to women who are going to be more ungrateful for them. They're literally creating a caste system with
Created.
men at the bottom.
Created. Let's be honest. Created. We already have a caste system, a legal caste system.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is, like I said, like, I think everything starts with just knocking off the reflexive blaming of men. If we want to make any other change, we got to stop. Because the thing is that if we want to make a change and everybody reflexively blames men, that's basically saying, well, we don't have to make any changes, right? We just have to blame men for whatever outcome we don't like of the things that we are choosing to do and continue to do. So unless we stop blaming men for everything and making that our solution to everything, we will never embrace any real solutions for anything. Okay, I'm good.
All right. Anyway, back to the article. Let's see. Women have increasingly used this advantage to further restrict their dating pool. In 2014, female Tinder users were about 3 times as discriminatory as the male ones, while today they reject 10 times as many profiles. According to Gerard, 2021, the average woman first swipes away around 95% of men. In the chatting phase, 98% of the remainder is filtered out before the woman commits to a date. Such heavy filtration is facilitated by 2 distinct mating dynamics. First, women's highly discriminatory short-term mate preferences draw them to a small proportion of men. Second, men's far more inclusive short-term preferences motivate a much higher desire for partner variety than observed in most women. Oh, interesting. So so you're saying men are more inclusive than women? Boy, I think you got to get reported to the Ministry of Equality over here for saying that. That's edgy. In Norway, men want 25 lifetime sex partners on average, while women prefer around 6. Although numbers vary, the sex difference is a cross-cultural universal. One Kinnair et al. 2023 found greater gender equality not to affect. Consequently, there is much greater demand for female sexuality than supply, giving women market power to select the men who best fulfill their mate preferences. Okay?
Yeah, but mate preferences
ahead.
is wrong. Like, essentially how this is turning out is, again, they're just a sexual convenience for a very small number of men. Like, if that's what they want with their life, I guess. Like, and the thing is that it's more than just, I don't even think it's mate preferences, honestly, guys. I think it's intersectional competition and political pressure from feminism that's driving this. And I have my reasons for it. And it's actually really sad that feminism has constructed a situation where women think that being a sexual convenience for men who does not give a crap about them is somehow empowerment. And that's all they're getting from this. Like, that what this paper is arguing is Susan being, I don't know, Chad's Thursday 3:30 to 4:15, and you know, he doesn't fuck her face to face because she's too ugly, and also she doesn't say anything during the thing because she doesn't want to deal with her on that level. That is a step up from Susan being married to Stu and having 4 children, right? And standing in the community, right?
Yeah.
This furtive, repulsive kind of sexual convenience for psychopaths is somehow better than being a wife and mother. And that if she has any problem with it, because Sue does have a big problem with it, right? If these women are honest to themselves, they are not enjoying this. Right? They talk about, oh, I got to be emotionally independent and I have to be, strong and independent and whatever. I got to be a bodhisattva of compassion in order to endure this man's indifference because something good is going to come of it, right? Never does. Like,
Yeah.
these women aren't freaking happy.
No,
If
they're
they
not.
were, the statistics would bear out.
No,
but
this
they're
it's as if
not.
they're
And
these
that's
people are trying to gaslight us and tell into believing that women are
what
happy
astounds me.
because they're the most liberated. Like they're at peak liberation. So peak
Yeah,
liberation equals happiness, and if they're not happy, then liberation doesn't work. And these people don't want that to be true. So they're just going to
but
gaslight
literally,
us into thinking that it is true.
remember that we've now, read a couple of or a bunch of these feminists, and I've seen this in action. Literally, feminism has taught women that not having any relationships expectations of Chad and just being a sexual convenience for him is liberation. Right? That's what they've taught them. They've taught them to swallow that.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, feminists are elite women who want to turn other women into a stable of sexual toys and moral tokens for the men that feminists like, which are the high-powered sociopathic financial extractors. Like this is the construction here. That's what feminists want women to be, is they want to have the power to turn a maximum number of women into social toys for the men who are funding feminism. Like I know that sounds really, really out there, but it's what I am noticing from all of this. And
Sure.
women have swallowed this. They have allowed feminists to turn them into sex toys and moral tokens with no, like, that build nothing. Sex toys, moral tokens, and drones. No wonder they're fixated on that Handmaid's Tale and the red robes, because it's like, yeah, ladies, feminism turned you into the gray robed women, the ones who just work,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not even valued as a mother. Like, at least the red robed women's fertility was valued. They were valued for something. Like, you're not valued at all in the feminist framework. You're a strong, independent woman. No man values you for a damn thing, right? And that's what you want with your life. You're not crying into your boxed wine at 3 a.m. because Chad will never call you back. He might call you if he's, feels like something other than his hand, right? That's not what's really happening. You are a strong, independent woman. Nobody values you. You don't need anybody's value. You don't need a man. Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. So anyway, back to the article. Let's see. Um, for the most sought after, well, it's not an article, it's a paper, academic paper, I guess. For the most sought after men, Tinder and similar apps provide abundant access to new dates. Even on Hinge, whose slogan is the dating app designed to be deleted, that is, lead to relationships, the top 1% of men receive 16% of women's likes, the top 15% receive 50%, and the bottom 50% are left with 4% of women's likes. Other dating apps are similarly or more skewed. Studies suggest that the average man may have to work through over 5,000 profiles to secure a single date. Men with even lower mate value face even more punishing odds. Some report having accumulated hundreds of thousands or even millions of rejections without finding a mate. The thing is that most of the women on those are going to, at best, get pumped and dumped, and that's not really what those women are looking for. I think women and men want a pair bond, and the women, look. I'm not saying this like I have a tremendous amount of sympathy, but it's just the truth. The women are looking to pair bond, but they're trying to get men that they have no right to at all. Like they're in no business courting those men, and those men, some of them, they're just like, well, I want to get my dick wet, and so I will, and I'm not going to call you anymore. I mean, I'm serious. That's what happens. Like, this is why you get so many women who are mid complaining on medium.com about men in general, but then you read through their fucking blog posts and you realize, oh no, it's not men in general. A guy pumped and dumped you, didn't call you back, you gave it up, And then probably in that moment, by the way, when you gave it up, he was like, "No, nah, I'm not dating this because she gave it away too easily." And now you're mad at all men, but you had no business like even talking to that dude. Like what I think, the one thing I will say that dating apps has done is it has made women delusional about their value, delusional about their worth, because they get bombarded by thirsty ass dudes that don't know like when to say no, and so they get hit with thousands and thousands of likes and comments, and so it inflates their ego and makes them believe that they're more attractive than they actually are, and then they become really selective and choosy, and they end up getting pumped and dumped by some giga chad that's going around doing this to lots of women because he can. So it's like I don't have a lot of sympathy, but these women need to wake up and smell the coffee. They are mid at best, and they probably have a lot to work on, especially if they're on a fucking dating site anyway. Because maybe you should, like, I don't know, be looking around your local community for people. But look, I took up a bit of time there, but I just had to say that because this article is not going to address.
How dare you take a bit of time, Brian? That's my job.
Yeah.
I wanted to say a few things to that. One, I don't think the man is deciding not to never call her again because she gave it up too easy. Pretty sure he knew what he was doing from the beginning.
I'm just saying sometimes it might even be that, though. Like if a man's like, I want a nice woman, but I've been with a lot of like loose women, then maybe his test is, well, if she like, gives it up on the first night or offers it up even, I might decide I'm not going to call her back after that. I mean, I think that there are men that will do that. They test a woman's let's say impulse control, I guess, because if she doesn't have any with him, then she's not going to with other men. And if that guy's looking for a partner, then yeah, he's probably going to be paying attention to that stuff.
Yeah. That's not exactly what I wanted to. I just wanted to point that out, but also, I think it's a simultaneously too high value in a marketplace that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Because when you say, oh, these women are mid, yeah, but mid is perfectly fine.
I didn't say they were ugly.
No,
So
I'm not saying no.
Mid
I'm
is
trying to get
mid.
in. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just adding to what you're saying. I'm not saying that you said
Yeah.
anything bad. But what I'm trying to get at is they have an inflated value, but it's in a marketplace that they probably don't want to be in the first place, right? Because what are you going to get thinking that you're a 10 in the Tinder marketplace? More access to sexual opportunity, like that's for most part, like again, men and women are pair bonders. So what does it matter? Like Simone and Malcolm, what he was saying, like she was upset that she was getting cellulite. And he said, but you've won. Like you're out of there. You're no longer in that marketplace, right? You're no longer putting yourself on display to attract a mate. You have one. It's done. So what I'm saying is that they overvalue themselves, or they think that's how they should value themselves, and they undervalue themselves in terms of, I deserve a man who shows up. Do you get what I'm saying, Brian? Not
Yeah.
one that's like in the top 5%, but that I deserve a companion in my life, right? I deserve somebody who cares enough about me that I get, I wake up, I see him in the morning, I go to bed with him, right? You are co conspirators in life, right? Dealing with the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune together. They don't have any value on that, or they don't have enough, or something has gone wrong, right? Because again, these people are starting from the presumption that this is a situation that women are liberated into. But if you look at it from my point of view, they're not liberated into this position. They're coerced and manipulated into it at their own detriment. They're coerced and manipulated into fighting with other women for the sexual attention of the top 5% of sociopaths and extractors, as opposed to finding a companion who wants to show up for them and show that they matter to another human being. Like there's no value put on that. It's like, I mean, lots of people talk about this in terms of women or men extracting marriage from women. But like, look at it from that point of view. You are a woman and you might be mid, right? But you have a man who's showed up every day and has
Sure.
built something with you, right? That you have a past with and a future. And they don't value that. And I think that fundamentally, that's like at the same time as they're overvaluing themselves in the marketplace for Chad's Thursday 3 p.m. slot, and undervaluing themselves in the marketplace for, I don't know, who's the mid guy, Steve? Steve's wife, right? Right?
Yeah.
Get what I'm saying? Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because there's more than one. Like there's the 1 to 10, you know, 1 to 10. Where do you get to land on Chad's cock? And then there's let's get out of that and go to who do you want to build a life with? Do you want a man who actually shows up? You know?
Yeah.
And they massively undervalued themselves for that, because I can tell you that because I've listened to them and I've listened to what they talk about and how their behavior that they're engaging in and all of the ways that they bend over backwards to deny the fact that they actually do want a man who shows up. They do want a man who values their time, who pays attention to them, and not in like a simping way, but in like, yeah, I want to build a life with you way, right? They obviously do want these things, because I can tell how much work they're doing to not want it with Chad.
Yeah.
You can see it. And I'm like, I would not tolerate this behavior because I value myself too much. Like, I don't want to be a man's convenience. I want a freaking husband.
Mm-hmm.
I want a companion. And should they need to value themselves more along the axis of actually finding someone who wants to be with them, who wants to build something with them, who wants to show up, and valuing themselves far less along the axis of I don't know where they stand or how well they get access to Chad's cock. Right? That's harem girl thinking. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm going to
Fuck good?
yeah, do he fuck good? And also I'm gonna put on my, like, I don't know, bead harem girl pants and do the sexy python dance to attract the sultan's attention.
Belly
Yeah,
dance.
well, yeah, exactly, to attract the sultan's attention. Like, okay, that's one way of valuing yourself. One way. Maybe, and I don't think it's the best way. And honestly, the misery statistics would suggest it's not the best way for most women. And this paper, and it's not the best way for the birth rate either. And this paper is arguing we do more of that. Tell women to value themselves in terms of their proximity to Chad's cock more. That's what this paper is arguing.
Yep.
I am 3 meters from Chad's cock. I am 1.5 meters. Like, this is their new value system. God damn, this is wretched. Okay.
All right, I got another super chat from Senior Sticks, who gave us $2 and says, "Unfair. These type ladies will be fine baby mamas." All right.
Yeah, they won't even be that. That's the thing. Like,
well, this article is, this piece is essentially making the argument for single moms and that they just get like subsidized, like we're doing right now. That's what they're suggesting. That, I mean, they haven't gotten to the proposal yet. The future of free women, that's a little bit later on. So should I keep going in this dating apps thing, or do you want me to jump ahead to another section?
Go ahead. Let's keep going. Let's do this.
All right.
Let's give this the treatment that it deserves.
All right. Considering how women deem there to be so few good enough men when they use apps, it is not surprising that the resulting dating stratification can have adverse effects on pair bonding rates. Such apps have displaced friends and family as our primary matchmakers, generating many relationships, yet their channeling of women primarily to the most attractive men contributes to how many men become incels, involuntary celibate, while many women become insings, involuntary single. Ooh, I like that, insings. As they are unable to get the high value men they date to commit. See, like I said, they can't get them to commit. A woman, 34, referenced this challenge in the Norwegian mating debate. Those I find interesting are not interested in anything serious or want something simple that does not challenge them in any way. Yeah, because they don't need to like deliver for you. Like you're asking men that the men that you desire are not the men that you want to like spend your life with, apparently. Or they don't want that with you. That's what's happening. Insings, I like that though. Insings, that's involuntarily single. That's basically because they're saying, right, women are the gatekeepers of sex, men are the gatekeepers of commitment. um I think that men should recognize that power and use it. I think a lot of guys don't. Like they don't think that they have any, you know. Uh
Are they okay with
and
insings? Like, are they okay with making more insings? Like, because
no,
it
no, no.
sounds
But
like these
I'm
women.
prepared to use it. Insings is insing, involuntarily single.
Okay, but
Insings.
are these researchers who are most likely being listened to by policymakers, guys, are they okay with their recommendations creating more involuntarily single women? Because that's what it's going to do, right? And also they're
Yeah.
going to crater the birth rate even more. But I wanted to speak to that. It's, there could be other reasons why attractive men don't commit to these women. One, a lot of these women are not actually functionally pair bondable. Like,
Yeah, they're bad. They're not relationship material.
they're not relationship material. I should have said it that way. And the reason why they're not relationship material is because they are so inculcated into this intersexual competition and this belief system around men that they require a fear of missing out to even maintain a bond. So, in other words, if a man commits to them, he's pre-selected that himself out of being their partner, because as soon as he commits to them, he removes their fear of missing out. So you can't have a pair bond with women like that, and that's directly coming out of feminist teachings, feminist dogma. And then the other thing is that the hypergamy of these women, right? When you're told that heterosexuality is the site of female oppression, that it's a status contest, that women always lose, then the only thing you can really do is maximize who you lose to, right? So you end up wanting to lose to the best you can get, but it's a function of viewing the relationship as a zero-sum game. So the only value you get out of it is by surrendering or losing to the most valuable man you can, right? And if you can't lose to a man who's extremely higher value than you, it's not worth it. So all of these dysfunctions make it difficult for even men who do have access to women to commit to any one of them. And then, of course, there's the problem of just inherent how humans sort themselves. Like, yeah, maybe the guy is willing to have sex with you, but you don't pass the kin selection filter, because people tend to like what's familiar in terms of, to a degree, in terms of their bonding. They tend to be drawn to people who look like their relatives but are genetically distinct. And if you're not like that, then he's just going to reject you on, for evolutionary reasons. So it's like and again, an attractive man is going to get a lot of attention from that kind of woman by definition, like unsuitable, and not unsuitable necessarily because of her looks, but just unsuitable because of those other factors. She operates her pair bonds on FOMO, fear of missing out. She has terminal hypergamy because she thinks that heterosexuality is a status contest that women always lose. The only thing you can maximize is losing to the best man that you can. And also, she's just incompatible on like evolutionary reasons, for evolutionary reasons. MCH, that's the immune system compatibility is low, and she is got low kin selection. So there's all kinds of reasons the guy could be rejecting these women that have nothing to do with their looks, and probably also their looks, but you know. And the problem here is that if your guy is good looking and you actually want to have a partner, it even selects against you. Because you're inundated by women who are just not appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, it's terrible for everyone, to be honest. And I could actually even go further into it based on like vocal modulation studies and stuff. But I'll leave it. We need to get through more. So.
All right. I got a super chat from Mr. Nubid for $2, and he says, feminists assured me that their value was not sexual. And then I got one from Xeranx. I have it on good authority.
I have it on good authority.
Women's value is not their sexuality.
Oh,
Xeranx,
really?
I mean, that's what they're saying. Xeranx gave us $5 and said, hearing InSing has my corny self repurposing bye, bye, bye lyrics. I've already done some of it, but I won't complete it. Stop that. No, this is not about that band.
No, send a super chat. Make Brian sing it.
No, I'm not going to sing it. I don't even know how it goes. I never heard of it. I don't know who this band is. All right, anyway. One reason for this pattern may lie in the kind of information dating apps foreground. Women are more motivated to find love than casual sex when using dating apps, yet many find it difficult to select the most appropriate candidates. Pictures on a small screen can tell you if someone looks hot enough to potentially turn you on if you meet, but it's harder to identify someone of matching long-term mate value when with whom you could fall in love. Yeah, that's probably why you shouldn't be on dating apps, though.
But haven't they just negated everything that they've just said?
Yeah,
right? Okay,
maybe.
So women want. Okay, guys, what did you just say? Women want relationships, and you just got through how having relationships, having a situation where the maximum number of women can get into relationships was somehow oppression of women, and now you're saying that women were oppressed by having the very thing that they wanted. Oh, good Lord. Okay, let's continue.
All right. The consequence for our ability to achieve assortative mating seems considerable. When a dating site asks members to rate those of the opposite sex, the result attested to the difference between the sexes' short-term preferences, but perhaps also to women developing increasingly discriminatory long-term mate preferences, a hypothesis we will return to. Men's ratings spread across a bell curve, meaning that a few women were judged to be very attractive or very unattractive, while the majority were in the middle. Mid. By contrast, women concluded that over 80% of men had below average attractiveness. If the average woman considers only a fifth of men to be a good match in terms of attractivity, she will struggle to find someone who is both good enough and willing to commit. With online dating dominating as a mating arena, something that doesn't have to be true, such numbers bode poorly for present and future pair bonding, and in the extension of that, our ability to reproduce our populations. So again, they're just saying 80% of men are considered below average attractiveness by women, and that's it. Like, that's just like a done deal. It's a foregone conclusion. Nothing will change this. And we just have to like move forward with this information, right? Instead of like, again, trying to figure out why women are so delusional about their preferences. Part of this problem may lie in the design of the technology itself, that it is so picture-based, in combination with the enormous demand women face on dating apps, pushes women to be very focused on men's physical attractiveness. In our traditional offline environments, men place higher premium on physical attractiveness than women. But because apps are so visual and women need to filtrate online suitors based on something, women lean heavily into their short-term mate preferences, favoring good looks.
No.
What if dating apps were made specifically to make money off of men, though? Because I mean, like, it seems like there are more men than women on them. I think that they are, like, this is a business, right? The dating app thing, it is a business. They make money. What if they just make money off of catering the actual app towards men's preferences. Isn't that the reason why Bumble came to exist as like the feminist, I don't know, the feminist alternative to Tinder and whatever they're using these days, Hinge. Um, I wonder because I bet you that the dating apps make a lot of money off of men's memberships. In fact, I think that there was one, I don't remember which one it was, but there was one, I think it was like free for a woman to sign up, but it cost men money. So I just saying because they're blaming the apps, right, for why women are not finding suitable partners, but they're not acknowledging that the apps were probably designed with men in mind, which is why. Do you know what I'm saying? They're trying to make money off of
Yeah.
men. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I was muted.
No,
Yeah.
it's fine. All right. Anyway, dating app users also tend to be more short-term oriented. Yeah, they want to bang. These various factors, which work against assortative pairing, lead some experts to place parts of the blame for today's dysfunctional mating on digital apps. Some believe that if only we could return to the analog dating of the 2000s and earlier, perhaps people would have an easier time partnering. Yeah, but okay, you guys don't want you think you guys obviously think that marriage is oppressive or something because the church forced it on people or something like that. So you're gonna bring this up as though you're paying lip service, but you got to throw that out, right? Because that's like a definitely a done deal. Okay. Regardless of how unlikely it seems that young people would give up on dating apps, we believe such a development would have but a limited effect. Apps reflect and accentuate the modern world's mating challenges, but the main underlying driver of increased singledom, we argue, is how some groups of men have lost so much utility to women that fewer fulfill women's requirements for a long term partner. Indeed, the Norwegian mating debate offers numerous examples of women who express that men are no longer good enough. Ravatin, I guess, I don't know, some Norwegian guy, wrote, quote, now that women no longer need men, men must have something to offer, and women must be willing to put up with them. Books like Why There Are No Good Men Left, The Romantic Plight of the New Single Woman validate such female choosiness. Okay. Do you want to say anything to that? No? Okay. I'm just going to the
That was muted.
source.
I was muted. Okay, I
Oh
was
my
about to
God.
say. Sorry. I'm sorry, Brian. Um, Government bureaucracy takes resources away from men and gives them to women, which causes the birth rate to crater, which will eventually cause our civilization to collapse, including the government bureaucracy, because they'll have no more tax money. So maybe they should just stop doing that. Huh? Like, why
Yeah.
was that ever justified? Like, I'm pretty like again, I'm pretty sure that whole taking from one category of person for no other reason than the color of their baby wrap, and giving it to another category of person for no other reason than the color of their baby wrap. We went through all that and we ended it, but somehow it just crept back in. And why is it justified? Like, this is the foundational question here. Why is this justified in the first place? I mean, we're creating, we have this whole downstream problem. Okay? Men are no longer reproductively attractive because the government has taken their money away. Well, don't do that then. But these people's proposal is men have become reproductively unattractive because the government has taken their money away, so let's do more of that. Okay?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that they won't even consider, when women say there are no good men, the influence of telling them that their relationships with men are status hierarchies or status contests that they always lose. So the only way to win is to maximize the man you lose to. Maybe that has an influence on their attitude. No? Like, there's plenty of other options we could pursue aside from taking money from men to give to women, which was the thing that caused the problem in the first place, presumably, according to them. Like, That's what's hilarious about this. They're saying, yeah, this is where the problem started. Let's do more of it. Surely that will solve things. Usually doesn't, but okay. And again, these are the guys like the reason why we have to talk about this is people like this have an ungodly influence over policy.
Yep.
Like there are, and I wonder why. Hey, I mean, because the conclusion that they've come to is that government bureaucracy, it's going to be solved by government bureaucracy getting its paws into people's wallets some more, right? I
Yep.
wonder why government bureaucracy
Just
loves
so
these
happens to
people.
be where they always land. You know what we
Yeah,
can do is we can create more government.
more bureaucrats
Hey,
shifting
ladies, you want
money.
to vote for that? Yes.
You want to vote for getting more money from men? Good Lord. Like, if you actually think about it, this is horrifying. And there is no justification for it. Let's take money from men. Oh, the women don't find men attractive anymore. Well, let's take some more money from men. And
Yeah.
also, yeah, this is totally justified, guys. Totally. That'll solve everything. God knows,
Okay.
increasing the size of bureaucracy has always solved every problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just throw more of that in there. Regardless of how unlikely it seems that young people would give up on dating apps, we believe such a development would have but a limited effect. Apps reflect and accentuate the modern world's mating challenges, but the main underlying driver of increased singledom, we argue, is how some groups of men have lost so much utility to women. I already read that part, right? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Dating, because yeah, there was a woman who wrote a paper called "There Are No Good Men Left: The Romantic Plight of the New Single Woman." Dating apps do facilitate women to direct much of their mating effort at the most sought after men, with whom pair bonding is an unlikely outcome. Yes. But the fact that dating apps play a part in how most men have little or no access to short-term mating is of limited relevance to their ability to attract a partner. Promiscuous mating has always been a lopsided affair for men. Low-value men could never rely on promiscuity as their mating strategy. If a lack of apps made women more willing to date men of similar mate value, the outcome would be more pair bonding, or
You
could be.
know,
Yeah.
oh, okay. I just want to say one short thing. The ugly sociopaths give lie to that because it is not just physical appearance. It is the sociopathic personality style. As long as you can, I don't know, pretend to be a highly confident, social, like really invested in a woman, she'll warm to you even if you're ugly as sin. So it's not completely visual, but you have to be a sociopath. That's the thing. You don't get the sociopath buff if you're not a sociopath. Or is that like a racial stat? Sociopathic racial stat plus charisma plus something charisma. Yeah, that's yeah, you have to be a sociopath to get that. I don't know if we want to encourage that sociopath breeding, but there you go. Okay, continue, Brian.
All right. So if a lack of apps made women more willing to date men of similar mate value, the outcome could be more pair bonding, or at least the slower decline, as more well-matched men and women would have a chance to meet and fall in love. But this alone could probably not solve the fertility crisis. So that's the end of that section. So next is our emotions do not work for us, but for our genes. Another possibly relevant aspect is that from the perspective of our genes, pair bonding is not necessarily the best option for reproduction. A benefit of
That's
short-term
bullshit.
mating, what?
That's bullshit. But I
Yeah,
guess
let's
we'll
see
go
what they
through it.
say.
Yeah.
Let's see their argument. A benefit of short-term mating is that most women can gain access to higher quality genes than through pair bonding with a man of matching mate value. Our
Why
long-term
do
strategies, go ahead.
why do people think that this is higher quality genes? Like honestly, why is a man who has got a sociopathic personality is a
If a
sociopath?
man gives a woman the tinglies, it must be because he has higher quality genes.
Yeah, but if we're pair bonders, higher quality genes also mean attachment and custodial behavior and paternal investment. right? So I don't know. I feel like this is higher quality genes on a very narrow pie slice of what we should actually be looking at. Just a thought. Continue.
I agree. I said that because I think that it's ridiculous that what according to the people who are writing this essay, it appears that what makes women, like get the tinglies down under is actually like, the reason, like basically she's for certain a really good judge of genes and she's going to get the high quality genes because there's nothing about her ability to like essentially discern whether or not a man is going to be a good father that sticks around and raises his kids and that she is a good match for, that she's going to be able to work with and build a life together. No, it's just like she's wet. It must be because of his genes. That's the only reason. And and it's right. It's not just about the genes. It's about the pair bonding, the commitment, the ability to stick
That's
around and
also
raise
genes.
children who need, like, from birth, they're completely helpless for like a great deal of their early life. And guess what you need for that? Yeah, a man. A man would be great, but big deal. It would be a big deal. So it's not that scientific. It's not that intelligent, and it's basically making an emotional appeal for women's in the moment preferences over what is probably best. Like there was a reason why in old villages we had like elders that could like pass wisdom onto their kids that would be mothers and fathers, right? Um that or potential, parents that are looking to pair bond and start a family. They needed to know who was the man that was, going to be a good father, who was the woman that was going to be a good mother. So it's not just
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I'm wet, so this guy must be good enough. No. Anyway, our long term strategies evolved because more demanding offspring made by parental care increasingly beneficial. But short term mating remained an alternative conditional strategy. Even after our ancestors evolved the capacity for romantic love, if a woman experienced that no available partner offered sufficient benefit, her emotions could motivate her to opt for a higher value man unwilling to bond. Their offspring's mortality risk could increase some, but contributions from kin, especially maternal grandmothers, could help make single motherhood the better option, at least from the perspective of her genes. So, what were you going to say?
Um, I still think that, well, first of all, paternal investment is a genetic fitness. So again, I think this is just looking at everything on a narrow axis, which just rewards attractive sociopaths, which, there's a reason why they're a minority, right? It's because they're not actually reproductively functional. I mean, there is probably an argument to be said that female sociopaths reproduce more than average. So maybe that's why they continue generation after generation. Good Lord, why can't we get? But anyway, um, why would like male sociopaths are not reproductively viable? Like they're not on the peak of reproductive fitness. They're not actually alphas. They're employing a strategy of creating a sexual superstimulus. So essentially what they do is they replicate the behavior of a man who's attached to a woman before any reasonable attachment has occurred. So they replicate the behavior of a man prior to a woman successfully courting him to the point where he has become, he's bonded to her. And they replicate that particular behavior without any investment by the woman. And because women, I guess, like a free lunch, they just jump all over that shit without being like, wait, something's wrong here. Like, I haven't constructed a situation where you should feel this comfortable with me. I haven't given you enough information for you to be this familiar with me or this confident. And again, it comes back to what I've been saying for a while now. Like, the average dude in the face of a strange woman is not going to be super comfortable, confident, or familiar. by definition, because she's strange, right? He has to get to know her a bit. Even if he's very outgoing, he's still going to be somewhat reserved. And in part, it's going to be because a man who can bond has something to lose. Sociopaths don't bond, or at least the non-dysregulated ones don't. The dysregulated ones have dysregulated bonds, but we'll at least set that aside. They don't bond, so they have nothing to lose. So they can jump down your throat with all that attention and strange attunement and confidence, and just be like, provide that super stimulus. The woman thinks she's getting something, and then he's out the door the next day. That is a sexual strategy, but it's not evolutionarily viable, because human beings need the contribution of both parents to survive to adulthood. So it is a parasitic strategy, but it doesn't survive in a world where there isn't anything to parasitize on, where there is no kin support of women, where there is no welfare, right? Sociopaths, the Inuit would just put them on they'd put Chad on an ice floe, be like, hey, the bears can have you, thank you. In other eras, they'd just kill him, hang him, we'd just be done with you, right? He'd get himself shot in a duel. Like, this is not a behavior that is usually tolerated, and it's only tolerated in our society because of welfare and the fact that the disasters that these men leave, we're all collectively deciding to take care of. But in an evolutionary sense, this man leaves a disaster. He leaves a dead kid and a dead woman, which is why the Inuit put them on ice floes and let the polar bears eat them, right? These are parasites. In no way are these men reproductively fit. And that's the problem. Women aren't choosing reproductively fit men. They're choosing, I don't know, like cockroaches. Like, they're choosing the bottom of the barrel. And they're doing so because the bottom of the barrel has learned to present a super stimulus, a sexual super stimulus to women. That's his only trick. And our society has convinced women, feminists have convinced women, that dealing with the behavioral bullshit of cockroaches is being independent, is being emotionally independent. And that the behavior of men who actually have something to lose is somehow misogyny. And that's the other thing. That's the other foot. Like, if he doesn't immediately warm to you, if he's a little bit, like, I don't know, if he's hesitant, if he's somewhat resistant, if he doesn't have the verbal fluidity that you expect, all of this, what is this categorized? Less attractive. And yet he's perfectly capable of bonding, showing up, taking care of his kids. These are reproductively fit characteristics, right? And again, there's this whole mythology that's grown up around, oh, they just want the natural alphas. Bullshit. These men aren't natural alphas. They're one-trick ponies. And the problem is that our society's and women's immune system to recognize these guys has been what's the word for it? Disarmed by feminist nonsense. Okay? Like, and they're no longer able to actually recognize quality. Am I being too crude and rude? Like,
No.
Like,
No.
I really want to shake people from this notion that women are going after alphas. They're not. They're going after the men who can simulate a particular quality, a particular sexual super stimulus. And that sexual super stimulus is the behavior of a bonded man towards his bond target, confident, very, like, he already knows who she is, so he's familiar and he's comfortable with her, right? And there's an intensity there, and that's what they simulate. And women think think, for whatever reason, most women, they look at that behavior and they don't think in their mind, where the hell did that come from? Like, that would be the first thing my thought would be. Like, I don't know you from Adam. What the hell are you doing? But apparently that's not for most women, which might actually speak to the oxytocin generalist, which is most women absent any kind of stress or discomfort, and me, which I think I'm pretty strongly V1A cross activated. But yeah, I'd like, if a guy starts doing that shit to me, I'm like, get away from me. I don't know who the hell you are. But for most women, they think that, oh my God, this is the one. And again, it's just a one-trick pony who can simulate a sexual superstimulus. And ironically, that sexual superstimulus is the behavior of a man who is pair bonded to a woman, but without the pair bond. Like, the guys are just acting like your husband, but they're not. And you haven't done anything to earn it. And that's the other thing. Women think that they don't have to do anything to earn anything, which leaves them wide open for these men. So instead of stopping and saying, hey, where did this come from? Why are you behaving to me like we are like 6 months into an intense courtship and I just met you 5 minutes ago? I didn't earn this. What the hell are you giving me this for? They're like, oh my God, he's so wonderful. And that's what they call love bombing, right? You know, you notice that women talk about this? Yeah, that is the one-trick pony's super stimulus. And then when he has accessed what he wants, he's out the door. And then the women are left wondering what the hell happened, but they can't actually, well, who do they direct their ire to? So they just say, you know, I'm just going to be a strong and independent woman, and I'm not going to have any emotional expectations. That's what feminism tells me. Like, it's a fucking joke. And again, these aren't alphas. An alpha man is someone who is reliable throughout. Like, if you look at what cross-culturally people regard to be a top man, like a man who's up in the hierarchy, generous, reliable, takes care of people, paternal, right? This is the top of the hierarchy. Generous is very important, right? For the big man thing, it's all over the world. But the idea is that he takes care of people, right? He shows up when people need something. That is the universal alpha. Whatever the hell has popped out of, whatever cockroach has popped out of the dung pile that is modern dating, that's not, like, scurried its way up to the top. That's not an alpha, by no means.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That was crude, but
Well, no, it's fine. I got about 5 minutes, so
okay.
what do you want? Do you have like an analysis thing you want to do or something, or?
Well, I do have how much more of the paper do we have left? I think this is going to be
Oh
a long.
no, we're like no, we're like not even halfway through it.
No.
We're gonna be. We gotta go. We can go through the whole thing, but not doing it today. We can do it in different installments. I do want to see what else they offer, but there's like the only thing I want to add to this though too is they said that we evolved the capacity for romantic love. I don't think that's true. I don't know what they mean by romantic love. I'm guessing they mean the romantic model of love, which is the romantic chivalry / romantic courtship / gynocentrism. I don't think that's biological. But so, yeah, I mean, I think, again, this is another one of those things where they're taking something that probably was a bit anathema to our nature and then applied it, like, you know, a right or an invention like the birth control pill, some new technology, and they apply it and they act like it's something that can't be undone. Well, we evolved it, therefore it's hard science, therefore we can't do anything about it. So now we got to unravel all of society to like please women because hey, we can't help that we evolved romantic love and the church forced marriage on women, and you know, dating apps exist, birth control pill. It's all like stuff out of the control of women, basically.
Yeah, but what's really funny is when you're reading through the lines here, what they're proposing is something women don't want either. right? They're proposing a system in which there's a massive amount of women who are insings, who don't get relationships. Women are miserable.
Yeah.
Women aren't necessarily having sex with these sociopaths just because they want to be pumped and dumped, even though the feminists tell them to swallow it and be a strong, independent woman, right? Nobody is happy with this. So we're not even like maintaining female happiness because nobody's happy. But what paragraph are we at? I'm curious.
What paragraph? Our
Yeah.
emotions do not work for us, but our genes is the section I'm on.
Okay. All right. So why don't you read that paragraph? We'll discuss it, and then you can get gone.
All right. So I did finish this paragraph. I almost finished it.
You did.
Almost. Okay. I said, even after our ancestors evolved the capacity for romantic love, if a woman experienced that no available partner offered sufficient benefit, her emotions could motivate her to opt for a higher value man unwilling to bond. Their offspring's mortality risk could increase some, but contributions from kin, especially maternal grandmothers, could help make single motherhood the better option, at least from the perspective of her genes.
No, there weren't like clans of women soloing their way through the wilds of prehistoric. Like, what the hell is this?
Let me solo this baby.
No, there wasn't. Okay, this is ridiculous. All right, that paragraph is ridiculous, but I'm going to say something that might be a bit of a white pill because I've been looking into human pair bonding, and I'm not sure what they mean. This paper means by romantic, or how you're terming the word romance. There is a specific kind of bond between men and women that's unique to them. And what's interesting is I've been looking into the vocal modulation during courtship, and this might be really interesting to the listeners to learn about. And I know it's a bit of a digression, but it is about pair bonding, and it is about women's satisfaction with the current arrangement. They looked at speed dating. So you'd have a bunch of people who would have like a 5-minute date and then move on. And they recorded the interactions of all of these pairs. And there were like a lot of them. They recorded the vocal interactions. And you would have, what's good for the study is that you would have, excuse me, sir. Where is he? Shush. There's probably a squirrel out there. You know, the squirrel, the dread enemy of the dog. Anyway, so you'd have all of these couples. You'd have 5 minutes for each couple, and then they record all of the couples. And then after, they would have them rate who they thought was most attractive, and then they would look at the vocal recordings of what was going on. And what they found was that when men court women, particularly in a high competition load situation, that means when men court women with other rivals around or potential rivals, what they do is they lower their pitch, and they sort of move the pitch around a bit, like modulate it. And what they found is that men and women, okay, and so when women court, they court in two different ways, depending on the man that they're in the situation with. If the man is conventionally attractive, so in other words, he's attractive to a wider number of women, she will lower her pitch, and that generally signals a peer relationship, so a one-to-one relationship between the man and the woman. So she's basically saying, it's lowering the pitch means that it's like I want to be respected, we're equals, and it's also an indication to rivals. It's like a formidability indication to rivals. So the woman lowers her pitch with an attractive man. But what's interesting is that if it's a man that she finds attractive to her but doesn't think he's attractive to the rest of the female group, because that happens, she raises her pitch. And what's interesting about raising your pitch as a woman is it's an elicitation. So it's trying to invite a man's custodial behavior. So that kind of protection and provision behavior towards you. So she's actually engaging in the first step of the courtship process that ends, with reproduction, bed. And she's doing that with men she finds attractive, but she doesn't think other women find attractive. So there's these two modes going on with women. And this isn't a speed dating situation where presumably there's a lot more factors that you can see in that, in person, posture, how you hold yourself, scent, and the sound of your voice. So men tend to have a little bit more of an advantage. Not more of an advantage relative to women, but more of an advantage relative to the absolute lack of advantage that they have when it comes to Tinder and Hinge and whatever else. So women are actually courting men they find uniquely attractive that aren't necessarily attractive to all women. So when women are in this kind of situation, they are expressing idiosyncratic attraction to men. And again, like the high raising the pitch is a courtship signal. Lowering your pitch is a formidability signal, right? It's actually not engaging the man. It's engaging potential rivals around you to say, back off. Raising your pitch is an invitation to bonding and to pursuing a relationship. So a lot of the problem that we're seeing, I know you don't like to blame social media, but a lot of the problem that we're seeing is, one, women can't evaluate men along the axes that actually matter, which is MHC, immune compatibility, so genetic compatibility. They can't evaluate them in terms of their voice, posture, other things. But when they are able to, they are selecting for looks matches. And they are eliciting those looks matches into a relationship, which means if you just left the women alone and they didn't have to deal with their frenemies' opinions, these would result in relationships. Like this would result in pair bonding. And it wouldn't be like all the women are after the really attractive men. They would be sorting themselves to who they particularly liked. In particular, I thought that might be a little bit of a white pill. So we have a situation where the apps destroy this. And then you have the situation where the intrasexual competition between women destroys it. Because once the woman gets it, her friends get in on it, she has to defend the guy because he's not conventionally attractive. He's not going to make her friends jealous. So it's got all of these pressures that are actually selecting against women just doing what they want to do. Right?
Yep.
And that's what this is showing, is that women actually do just want to select the particular guy they find hot, which isn't necessarily the same as what every other woman finds hot, and then just go and do their thing. Do the thing that humans have done for how many millions of years? Just fine. Before we had apps and feminism, and all of this other crap. So I thought that would be interesting for you guys to hear that, and it's another nail in the coffin for this particular study, and they didn't even look at that stuff. They didn't look at anything really to do with human pair bonding, despite the fact they have a lot of opinions on it, right? It's a nail in the coffin to this study because it shows that actually women left to their own devices probably would choose very idiosyncratically. They would choose partners very idiosyncratically. They would choose men that they find attractive, not men all women find attractive. And I want to emphasize this point. Like, you don't lower your pitch as a woman with a man you're inviting, or a man. If you do, you raise it, and the reason why is because it elicits the custodial behaviors that are a big part of pair bonding for humans. So anyway, there you go, guys. The end conclusion is this paper is not going to do anything positive for anyone. I think we all knew that, though.
Yeah. I think
All
so.
right.
All right. So,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. I don't see any super things. I thought there was something.
Well, if you there was another one.
I thought
Richard
there
Beer sent
was.
one.
Oh yeah, Richard Beer gave us $5 and said, after the cataclysm, the survivors all banded together and followed Saint Greta into the promised land to rebuild civilization with the assistance of the benevolent AI known as Larissa.
Oh God, that was
Right.
that's the lampooning of the feminist utopia again.
Yeah. I know. Inside
Which is
joke.
what this paper is arguing for. A feminist utopia where we take more money from men to give to women to have no babies. And that's going to solve the lack of babies. The babies. Okay.
Seems to add
All
up.
right.
The math is good, I guess. Okay, go ahead.
The maths.
Yeah, I think the math is mathing there.
All right. So if you have anything you'd like to send us, any wisdoms, any commentary, you want to correct me, I know you guys sometimes like to do that, send it to feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Once again, that's feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way for you to send us a tip, because we get the full benefit of the funds and you get the full benefit of sending your comment not through YouTube's comment enhancement system. And feedthebadger.com/support for supporting the show when that's up. And badgernation.online if you want to join us in your community. I will probably eventually be putting up an extended analysis of this very article. This and its subsidiary piece where they walk back everything that they say, because people were actually quite irate at them, justifiably so. Not just us, too. Not just us. They were like, "What the hell are you talking about?" Finally, a little bit of blowback for these people, and maybe we'll get into that.
Oh
if we
yeah,
wanna,
that sounds interesting to me.
Yeah, if we, of course, that might be many moons from now. But anyway, so feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you want to send us a message. And I will hand it back to you, Brian.
Okay, well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today, and share the video because sharing is caring. Thanks so much for coming on this episode of Maintaining Frame, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.